Welcome back to Taking Stock, where we get to talk to our experts in our small business community about the common challenges they're facing in their business and how to solve them in a way that leads to better business, more productive teams, and stronger communities. As always, I'm your host, Steve Bowman, Head of Product here at Coble. Today we're here with Henry Zook from Millcreek Manufacturing, where they manufacture high-performance and low-maintenance farm and turf equipment to help their customers' operations run smoothly. Henry is the owner-manager of Millcreek and has been here for 20 plus years. Today, we're going to talk through some of his experience and the lessons he's learned as he built a thriving manufacturing business through the ups and downs of business growth. Welcome, Henry. It's fun to have you here. We've interacted a few times when back in my consulting days, and you always have above average technical aptitude for most business owners.
Yes, probably.
Yeah,
that's sometimes a good thing.
Yeah, sometimes you're funny because I remember we would have we'd have a conversation about maybe a script or some customization you want. And you're like, I'm not entirely sure how you're going to accomplish that. You feel confident, and I do a little programming. I'm not sure how I would do it. So yeah, it's always fun. So I like to just learn a little bit about Millcreek. So for our listeners, viewers, what is Millcreek? Where'd it come from?
Yeah, so it has a number of roots. It's actually started out as a welding company, just doing welding for other companies, and then we ended up buying Millcreek Manufacturing from someone else that was a well-known brand, so we kind of assumed that name, and now we're known as Millcreek Manufacturing.
Okay.
And we also bought Lanco equipment, which we now call the Lanco Spreader brand. So we essentially started out making equipment, welding equipment for other people, and then gradually bought a few different brands, if you will, with the designs and the equipment and customer base.
Wow, that's pretty impressive to go from. So when you were the welding shop, were you just building componentry for those brands?
My brother started actually welding as a part-time weekend job.
Okay.
And then he put up the first building in, I believe, 2003, and hired a couple people, started making components for other companies, including Millcreek Manufacturing.
Okay.
But strictly welding and cutting materials, I think, at that time, forming. We had a number of capabilities at the time, but then 2009 is when we bought Millcreek.
Okay. So the welding shop was your brother's business, or were you a partner? What were you out there welding stuff, or what's your role in the original operation?
Yes, I got into this scary fast. I worked on the farm until I was age 20.
Okay.
And then I started working for my brother because I wanted to get married and I wanted to earn some money.
Okay.
And a couple of years later, he's looking at moving to upstate New York, and he's like, "Hey, do you want to take on the business?" And I'm like, sure. I'm age 25 at the time.
Okay.
And then 6 months later, after I kind of wrapped my head around, okay, this is how business runs, all of a sudden Millcreek says, "Hey, we're gonna sell out." This is 2009 and everything was going haywire.
Oh wow. Oh, right after financial crisis. Yeah.
Financial crisis, and they're like, "Oh, this isn't working. We're gonna sell the company." And I'm like, oh boy, there goes our biggest customer, probably half of our work. And in my mind, there was no way we're going to buy it at the time. But then a local businessman somehow got the idea that I should buy this, and he kind of helped me through that. And we did end up buying them because it was 2009. It was actually in our favor. Nobody wanted to buy a business that wasn't working. The banks refused to have anything to do with anything like that at the time. So they ended up coming back to us and saying, "Hey, we really need to stop the bleeding." And they almost gave it away.
Oh, wow.
They actually had us buy their inventory as we needed it over a 2-year period.
Amazing.
So, yeah, I look back at it now and I'm like, that was crazy. And even then I was like, what is going on here? Something's a little odd. But anyway, I guess it was meant to be because it happened. And I was the ripe old age of 25. So
you went from the farm to age 20, working for your brother for a few years.
Yeah.
And you took over the business at the age of 25.
Yes. And bought the other company.
And bought the other company within the same 6-8 months.
Yeah.
That's a wild year of transition.
That's a pretty wild ride. I mean, I have a number of people here working for me now that are like around 25, and I'm looking at that and I'm like, that's almost child abuse.
And then you inflicted it on yourself.
Well, it was kind of funny because for the first time in my life, it's like, oh, this is fun. Because up to that point, I had all these different things that I could do.
Yeah.
I could work on the farm. I could repair engines, like my dad had an engine repair shop. I could weld. I could run any of the machines in the shop. But I was like, none of it was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I just wasn't hitting until I sat in the owner's seat, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, I think this is it.
Interesting. That's cool. That's so did you, under the welding business before you became yours, did you sit in a few of those different chairs in the shop and in the office?
Well, we were just a small company with maybe 6 people.
Okay.
I think we hired a few more once we took on Millcreek, but we were just a small company, and the owner was the foreman and the leader, and that was about it.
Gotcha. Okay. That changed quick.
It did.
So can you describe, who your customers, your biggest customer was Millcreek when it was a welding shop?
Yes.
And then you assume, or you buy Millcreek. So now your customers are both yourself, in a sense, in producing parts for Millcreek.
Right.
But Millcreek has customers. So who's that customer base?
That customer base was all over the U.S. and actually one in the U.K.
Oh, wow.
A number of distributors that they had, and also dealers scattered all over the U.S. So it was definitely a big shift, more than I realized at the time, of course. But suddenly we had rather than like half a dozen customers, we had hundreds.
Wow, that's crazy. It's interesting to see that, again, that compression of time. You go from a small number of workers, small number of customers, a niche set of skills, to a global market. Yeah, technically speaking, that's wild. So what are this, as you look back through the years of that, keep walking the timeline down, because you also have this Lenco Spreaders brand that you acquired.
Yeah.
Where does that come in the timeline?
That comes in 2017.
Okay.
So about 8 years later. We had such good success with Millcreek that I was like, wow, that was fun. Let's do it again. Of course, not knowing at the time, I've heard someone say since, if you think you're doing really well, you're probably not doing as well as you think. If you think you're doing really bad, you're also probably not doing as bad as you think. And I found that to be true. At the time, I had no idea that Millcreek had spent 10 years essentially perfecting everything and then handed it off to me.
Ah, okay.
Whereas Elanco was a little different. That was kind of the one-man shop, like I just described earlier. You know, the owner, the leader with like 5 people was where Elanco came from. So Millcreek had everything thoroughly documented. Everything was done to a T. Elanco was not. That was a little different. Well, it was actually incredibly complex with very little documentation, very little things on paper or in a computer system for that matter. So that was a very different experience.
Yeah, say more about that. Was it that you had to not only document products, but you had to also innovate and do more product design because it was less refined, it needed more work?
Not necessarily, no. That would have been more Millcreek. They had everything. They were actually part of a larger corporation, so they had their stuff pretty well defined, but there was definitely the opportunity there for fresh design and innovation there.
Okay.
Whereas Elanco was in the opposite end of the scale, where the innovation was just crazy, amazing.
Okay.
But the documentation and so forth was just really hard to come by for somebody in my position coming in and buying the company. It was a little hard to tell what was going on.
Yeah. So what was that experience like? So you buy this company, has more the startup edge, it's the innovator, it's a disruptor. Was that fun, or was that like, What have I done? Both hands?
That was pretty intense. I remember at the time one of our coaches saying, hey, what if you just simply shut this thing down because it's eating you alive?
Oh, wow.
And I knew he wasn't wrong, but we considered it. We never really did. We took a little bit of a different route where we raised prices to where we were making money and lost a certain amount of market share through that.
Yeah.
But it did help to right the ship, so to speak, because we kept what made money and quit doing what didn't.
So they had enough SKUs or products in their catalog that you could essentially determine what was really bringing value and where you could win in the market by.
Well, there again, it was hard to tell because we didn't even have complete bill of materials. So it took a couple years actually to kind of get through that to the point where it was like, okay, we are confident and we know what our costs are.
Oh, wow.
So flying blind is not okay. I mean, I did for a while there. I look back at it now and I'm like, oh dear, that was pretty stupid. I mean, at the time you don't really think about it because you're watching everything go on in your business as it has.
Right.
But with no real handle on where the money's coming from or where it's going, why, that was not good.
Yeah.
Especially in the environment we have here with all our different products we make.
Yeah.
And they vary so much.
And then amidst that, there's market volatility, I'm sure. There's things happening around you that can you tell me more about some of those kind of watershed moments? So you have the acquisition of Millcreek, you have the acquisition of Lenco, two very different experiences there, but what else is contributing to your businesses? What other moments showing up that are key?
Yeah, so we also had some high employee turnover. We usually used to have pretty much an all Amish, very conservative workforce, and then we transitioned and we had a very different workforce that took a very different approach to things.
Okay.
That was a big learning curve for me especially, because I had to learn how to communicate. One of my business coaches has this joke that he just won't let go of, and it's that when I was age 20, the only team I ever led was a team of mules. And to this day, I could probably take 6 mules and make them work together, and I can speak fluent mule language, actually. But when it came to actually talking to people, having them go in the same direction or work together was a lot more challenging to me. I'd spent very little time with any of that.
How did the transition from an predominantly Amish workforce to a workforce that's not? What changed? What caused that difficulty show up?
What caused the turnover, or what caused the?
We'll go with the what made communication more difficult with the new workforce. We'll come back to that question too.
Yeah, the communication. It took me a long time to put words to it, and interesting enough, it was Jay Gish that finally gave me the words to put to it.
Okay.
The Amish are a high context culture. It's like it's kind of assumed you know what to do.
Okay.
Whereas I believe that the business workplace is almost the opposite end of the spectrum, where it's kind of assumed you know nothing and you need a lot told to you.
Okay.
So that's probably the biggest thing. It's like I wasn't used to training people.
Right.
I wasn't used to spending a lot of time in meetings. We actually ran the company without meetings up until 2015.
Oh my.
Where I believe we had like 18, 20 employees at one time, and we had 0 meetings, almost zero. The ones that we had weren't that effective.
So in that case, you probably still had some turnover or new workers that were hiring. Did they just essentially apprentice with the person they were working with? Yeah,
they would kind of start off and, well, at the time with the Amish workforce, I used to start off with the young boys would start off in weld and kind of work their way up from there.
Okay. Starting off at welding, it seems like throwing your feet to the fire a little bit early.
It's funny. The original owner of Millcreek, who was a Amish entrepreneur who started the company the year I was born, 1984, he told me that young Amish boys make the best welders, and I've found it to be true ever since.
Why is that? Tell me.
Oh, they were fresh out of school. They're excited for the new job, and they just pick it up really, really quick. They're young. They just learn it really fast.
Good fine motor skills, lots of strength and energy.
Yeah, that's the way I've found it ever since. I actually have arrangement with it took me a while to translate that into the current culture, but now I have interns from a number of local high schools that come here to learn how to weld.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that took a while to figure out, but it is the same thing. They come here, they're excited, they're ready to learn, and
yeah.
Some of it has to do with the complexity of what we have going on here.
Yeah.
For somebody my age, it'd be a little hard to come in here and you're doing something different every day you're here. Yeah. You're welding different parts. You might not see that part again for 6 months. So the young minds tend to remember better and adapt better.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're basically the same age. I was born in 83. So if you put me out there, I've welded before. You wouldn't want to pay me to weld because the cost of the damage I would do, I'm sure. Yeah, I can imagine the desire to do the repetitions to master it, but if I don't touch it again for...
Right, if we'd have something where we're putting out, the same widgets or the same 10 widgets, you'd want an experienced person who understands it in depth and stays on it and is steady and predictable, but with all the different equipment we make here, it's very unpredictable.
Yeah. In your relationship with the local high school internship, do they have like a welding shop class at the school, and then this is kind of like welding 2 where you get to do it in the real world? Or do they not have that kind of vocational education, and this is the opportunity for them to get that?
Generally, they just send them out without any education, and we've started building a training program here.
Okay.
One of our guys is pretty good at instructing them. So, yeah, we usually just start them off completely green.
That's amazing. High school I went to, we did have a strong vocational training program. So welding shop was one of them. And it was very common for people in those courses, whether welding or automotive or whatever, to transition into a local company who's doing that. It was a nice pipeline, but they were getting all the safety and the core mistakes done inside that lab environment in the school, which was convenient. But yeah, that's fantastic. That's a contribution to the community for sure. I can't let it pass. You have to ask a question. It sounds like you had a moment in time where something happened here at the company that caused a flip in your workforce.
Yeah, that's true. It wasn't necessarily at the company as much. It was outside of it. Okay. When we changed churches, essentially I want to say the more conservative Amish workforce we had wasn't comfortable with that, so they left. So I had to kind of start over.
That's a bump.
That is a bump, and as working for an ERP, you would also be interested in knowing that as it happened, the very same week was when I had scheduled to change ERP systems.
So you're not only doing the thing that nobody wants to do, which is change their ERP, but you're having to acquire and train a new workforce. Yeah. Basically at the same moment.
And I was like, okay, either this is terrible or it's a good idea, because new people need to be trained anyway, new ERP system. But I think if I was at that crossroads again, I would say no thank you.
Yeah.
Because what ended up happening, like I said earlier, the Lanco company. Yeah. That happened at the same time too.
You don't do any one thing. You cluster all your things at the same.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. I know one very successful local businessman who later I talked to. I was like, "This is crazy," and he's like, "Look, any one of those 3 things would have taken out can and does take out a business."
Yeah, and you do.
And he said you had 3 at one time,
and you survived. And you're thriving.
Yes.
Yeah. So. I obviously I work for an ERP. You use our product, Cobol. I'd love to hear about the history of technology. So when you were a welding shop, did you all use technology, or was it pen and paper? What was the evolution of this company as it grew, embracing technology, and what did it do for that? Why did you do that?
Well, that's kind of funny because my brother was more the pioneer, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
It didn't take him long to start something. So as he was running the company, he's like, I need a machine that makes my bookwork easier. And I'm like, I'm 10 years younger than him, so I'm kind of looking at him being like, don't go down that rabbit hole. I was actually the more conservative one at the time. I was like, why are you doing that?
Okay.
And he's like, well, I need something. I don't want this office work to take so long.
Yeah.
So he got himself one of the classic word processors early on.
Okay.
One of the very first ones, I want to say. And, but soon enough, the thing doesn't work. So he's like, hey, Henry, can you come take a look at this and call the company and get it fixed? I'm like, sure. Well, 5 minutes later, I'm in there in the actual code fixing it. And I'm like, oh, this is fascinating.
So had you done any coding before that? Or was it on the machines that you were coding things that
I had read about it, but I'd never seen it. I'm like, oh, that's what this is. This is computer code. Oh, this is awesome. And after a while, he's like, and he has no idea what this all is about.
Yeah.
After a while, he's like, hey, can you make it save the invoice information?
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, we don't do a whole lot of invoices. And it was a spreadsheet-based system. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe I could. And I start reading through the code and I was just fascinated with it and really adaptable to it. And after a while, I'm like, you know what? I think I can. Let me make a copy of this thing and then you mess with it. So I messed with it for an hour or two and I finally got it to copy the invoice information and paste it further down. And paste it further down each time. I still don't know how I did it, but anyway, I figured it out. After that, he was like, oh, can you make it do this? Can you make it do that?
So you transitioned from cutting your teeth as a welder all the way pipeline straight into being the in-house developer.
I guess we had no idea what we were doing, but I was having fun.
Yeah.
So every now and then I would get completely stuck and I would call the owner or whoever and be like, hey, I'm stuck. Can you tell me how to do this? And he would be like, yeah, you need to do this. And I'm like, oh, okay, thanks. So not only was I somehow got into coding, I also did it without the internet.
That's also impressive. So for our listeners and viewers, Classic Accounting is a Linux-based product that's locked down on a Linux machine,
right,
known as a Chore Boy. So no internet connection needed. But it only works on a single workstation. Is that right, or does it now?
That was the case at the time. And then when I bought Millcreek, I was like, "Oh shoot, I'm going to need something serious." And I actually had I had looked at EBMS pretty hard then, but it was just too much. I'm trying to remember how it went from there. But after a while, I was like, why don't I just do something myself? Which, again, I had no idea what I was doing. But over the next 2 years, I built an ERP system. Okay. Again, without the internet. And eventually we did make it so that there were multiple machines hooked together. I also had a friend who was extremely techy who was unable to help me at all with the programming because it was a different language and he didn't want to get into it. But he was able to help me with the technical aspects of hooking multiple classic word processors together.
Okay.
We did like 4 or 5 of them.
Okay.
Which may or may not have been against the
license agreement?
The license agreement, come to think of it, but I didn't know what that was at the time either. So.
You were also editing the core code, so I'm not sure that your license agreement was...
Well, it was just the one program. It wasn't the core code of the processor. But eventually we put a database in the back end. And
okay.
I was like, oh, this is really nice. So I had a SQL database in the back end, and was it LibreCAD or OpenOffice, whatever it was in the front end.
Okay.
And this kind of just grew with the company, but... as I look back now, I'm like, oh, that thing was absolutely awesome. It ran like lightning. It did exactly what I wanted it to do, and it did it quickly. But the problem was I had to spend probably, on average, 20, 30 minutes a day in there, either fixing bugs or doing maintenance or doing something. And as a business owner, as we got up to 2017, we had almost 20 employees. And I'm like, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. But at that point, I was unable to hand it off to anybody. I didn't know what to do.
Right. Yeah. So tell me, so you did what business owners do all the time, right? So they'll push Excel to the limits and create whatever monster they want. That works exactly how they want it until it doesn't. But it's the business owner who creates it that's stuck because they're both the engineer, the tech support, and the business owner, which is a hard 3 roles to own.
Yeah, and the thing was getting increasingly top heavy. Like, if I look at the code, I would go in there and look at the code, and I would have the sensation that I'm building an inverted pyramid.
Oh,
it's like whatever system you made 5 years ago isn't made to handle what you're doing now.
Yeah,
you need more rows, more columns. You need more capability. You should have defined this early on rather than having it all jumbled together. And so we then went to Global Shop. And there again, I did end up spending about $100,000 on something, and it really didn't work. But it's probably more due to the chaos and the turmoil going on in the business at the time.
Yeah.
When we did switch to EBMS, I think 2 years later, there was a collective sigh of relief the day we switched systems.
Interesting.
Because 3 or 4 of our employees had done EBMS before.
Okay.
And I was expecting pure chaos.
Yeah.
Instead of that, it actually calmed down because people understood the system. And I think the other thing, too, was we had some help with getting good data in.
Okay.
Because the translation from my system to Global Shop was pretty hilarious.
Oh, I'm sure, because you had to export something.
They flew a poor guy in here and had 3 days to do it, and they had a flight scheduled to go home.
Oh, no.
He was in here almost backing out the door, being basically like, good luck, see you later.
Oh, my.
And it was not set up properly at all. So we were kind of doomed from the get-go, I realize now.
Global Shop was more complex.
Yeah.
I mean, you made a huge jump from classic to a system with a cockpit. And
yeah, that system was incredibly complex. I went into the back end of the database, like I do, because that's how I think. And I had my mind blown. There were 2,000 tables in there.
Oh, my.
Some of them had 50 columns in them.
Oh, my.
And it was almost impossible to find anything in the back end or on the front end for that matter, because it was so complex. And it's one of those things where I should have had the consultant sit here for 2 weeks and set everything up to run. But I was like, I can handle this. I understand tech. I got it.
Yeah.
I did not got it. So the Global Shop thing didn't work out well. Then we switched to EBMS. It was like, everything is simple. In the back end, there's only about 30 tables. Well, I've noticed the last couple of years there's a creep towards, we're not at 2,000 yet, but you're making some progress.
Yeah, we are. As the system grows, you gotta put the data somewhere. Yeah. Hopefully, we'll continue the path of asking simplicity questions along the way. Not the data's got to go somewhere, but hopefully the front end.
Yes, that is actually what I love about the EBMS front end right now. It's simple. The stuff is there, but the odd stuff is kind of obscured somewhere back where you won't just stumble across it or have to sift and sort through it.
Right.
That's what I really appreciate about it. It's simple.
Of course, that the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Some people find it and go, "Oh no," but I think that transition is what's hard. So it's interesting because you jumped into ERP well before EBMS because you created your own, and it was all driven from this. It sounds like this need to a recognition that your administrative function was growing in complexity.
Yeah.
What triggered the shift from Global Shop to EBMS?
That was some of my employees just being like, "This ain't working."
Yeah.
That was not me. I was emotionally and financially invested into Global Shop to the point where I had a bit of pride to swallow to go back to EBMS, especially since I had already looked at it years earlier, and I was like, no, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So here I was not only forced to go back on the Global Shop decision, but also the EBMS decision. However, I did find out that EBMS was a very different company than it had been. I don't know how long before that. A while before that. We've been working with. I think it was like Jake Esch and Nathaniel at the time, were the people he was talking to. So this would have been way back.
Okay, yeah.
And at the time, I wasn't convinced that EBMS was the right route to go, but then back in, I guess it was 2019 or something like that, I did find out that, wow, you guys have grown a lot and you're in a much better place to take care of us.
Yeah.
And even since then, it's been awesome to see the growth.
We appreciate that. So if you were the coach, we'll put you in the coach's seat rather than receiving the coaching. For most of our listeners are business owners or leaders. What are the things you would say are important for them to think about when choosing an ERP? You've done this 3 times now. You built your own, you chose one, and then you chose another one. So what are the things that they should be thinking about or looking for in their ERP decision?
Yeah, well, I know what I would look for is something that will save time instead of take up time, which was the problem with Global Shop. It was taking up too much of our time. The procedures were just too complicated, and it really burned up time trying to. I think somebody even used the phrase at the time, "feeding the beast," because it was like it had a mind of its own, and you had to cater to it, or it was gonna, basically ruin your day. You had to do things right, and you had to do it according to the way the computer needed it done. And there's always an element of that.
You're right.
You always have to consider your options with an ERP system. It's like, what's the best way how to bridge the gap between what I want to do and what the system's capable of.
Right.
There's always some of that going on. That was a mind shift I had to have. I get a huge mind shift as a business owner from, this is my ERP system. It'll do anything I want it to. I can make it integrate with EBMS. UPS. I had it integrated with UPS. I had it sending out invoices automatically.
Wow.
I had a lot of cool stuff going on. From making the shift to this is EBMS, they've already figured out how to do this for most businesses. What's their way of thinking? That was a really hard move for me.
Yeah.
I had to shift from how do I want it done to, okay, they've probably already seen this 20 times. How did they handle it?
Yeah.
That was a super hard shift for me.
Yeah.
But as far as, what to look for in an ERP system, I know support's a big thing.
Yeah.
Like with Global Shop, the mistake we made was not having them dig in the beginning and get serious about setting us up for success. That's a huge thing to me, is like, if you don't start off on the right foot, it's going to cost you 20 times over if you don't, get off to a good start. And I'm sure Global Shop, told me to run both books, together for a year and stuff like that, which I all ignored. But that's more. I guess that would be more advice that's on the transition. Is you do not want to skimp on that. You want to get it right.
Yeah.
But as far as what to look for in an ERP system, probably the support. How fast can they fix problems? This won't apply to everybody, but for you guys, you're local, which I know with Global Shop, that was the big thing. It was like, I need a guy, boots on the ground here, to just hang out here for a couple of days and fix things. And we did that once or twice, but it was extremely expensive because they're based in Texas.
Yeah, yeah.
But I know for us, it was comforting to know you guys are next door, and if need be, you could come out and spend a day here to solve a problem. But no, in general, I wouldn't, of course, say support is super important. For me personally, customization is super important, which is the progress EBMS has made recently excites me, because now I have somebody I can email and it's like, oh yeah, we can probably do that in 3 weeks. Of course, now it's getting to the point where I'm like, okay, I need some self-control here, because there's so many things I'm going to make them. I'm going to pay them to do if I'm not careful.
We're happy to help you out, Henry.
Yeah, I know.
That's the problem, huh? But yeah. So I'm curious, if you could talk a little bit about how your use of ERP, in the case of EBMS, how did that change your internal you talked about a little bit about how you had to change the way you thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
That there's a reality in the shop, in your office. There's the way the system thinks, and there's a merging of those two worlds where you have to kind of want to mirror reality. But was there a simplification? Was there efficiency gain? What were what's the benefits of getting into ERP? Because you've stayed in it, from building your own, in that evolution. What are some of those benefits that, what's the result of your investment in an ERP?
Yeah, that's probably going to be a little hard to say because, like you said, I've always been in it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking now back to one thing we did that was unconventional with EBMS is we said we want to track time on all our batches.
Oh, wow.
In the beginning, that was a bit of a hurdle back in 2017, 2018, whenever it was that we started talking to EBMS. That kind of went back to my brother, who always told us, you track your time on every single job. He's like, we do so many different things. We wanted to have that history. He had it on paper, but of course I was like, I need that in a database.
Yeah.
Which is what we did eventually. So we have the ability at any point to go back and look at what the machine we made, 5-10 years ago, see how much time we put into it, see who did it.
Yeah.
It's very nice to be able to go back and see everything. Also helps us with current costs. Like we can quickly determine what our average cost is of any piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And by the way, for anybody who has EBMS who wonders how to do that, it's actually my own program.
Uh-huh.
And you guys probably have a way to do that by now, but I still have some remnants of old programs around. And one of them is one that looks up all the components in the bill of materials and their subcomponents and figures out how much time went into the whole thing.
Oh, interesting. I'd love to see that sometime.
Yeah, well, it works. It's a bit crude, but it works.
Crude is fine if it works.
Mm-hmm. So, other advantages, well, of course, to have good numbers on where the money is going and where it's coming from is crucial as well. You got to know if you're making money. I went a year and a half without being able to depend on the P&L being accurate, and that was pretty brutal. And if I had that to do over, I would hunker in the first month, and I would make that the top priority if I had that to do over again. I would dig in and I would say, we're going to fix this, and we're going to fix this before we even do any more business, because if not, we're just going to burn money. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a theoretical question for you. I'm just curious because this isn't real, but it could, businesses could think like this. It's it's a way of, I guess, understanding the value of an ERP. So essentially the question is, what does ERP mean for your business? And you kind of talked about some of that, but if you woke up tomorrow and EBMS was gone, or ERP was gone, what changes?
We come to a screeching halt, basically. We don't know what to cut out, what to do next, basically. I mean, there would be ways. We have visual systems out there, so there would be ways to do that, but we would have no idea where we're at financially, or a customer would call in and say, hey, I need a flow control valve for a 2015 Lanco unit, and we'd be like, okay. If we were really good, if the guy answering the phone was really good, he'd say, oh yeah, it's out there on the shelf, and I think it's about $200.
Yeah.
And let me run out and see, but I think we got a couple of them. Other than that, it's not like, well, you're looking it up in EBMS and you're looking at, okay, this is the part number. It shows we have 10 in stock. This is the price. And yes, customer, your name's in here. And do you want to use the same credit card you did a couple months ago? And you can have a very short phone call where it's like, yep, it's here. It's on the way. And you hit print and you move on to the next phone call.
Mm-hmm.
With our current process, if you do that, the packing slip prints out out by the shipping area, and the guys ship it, and it goes on its way. We collect the money by credit card, and the customer calls up 2 days later and says, "Hey, where's my stuff at?" We look it up, and the tracking number's in there, and we say, "Well, they just dropped it off this morning," something like that.
Go check your porch.
Yeah.
That's a good frame. It's one of the things when I've had the opportunity to implement customers or talking with people who are exploring EBMS as a product, the common answer is that you don't have this disparate set of systems that you have to go cross check with yourself. It's a single source of truth. So that is huge.
It is, yes. And the other thing is more on the manufacturing side of things. Let's say somebody comes in here and orders a piece of equipment that we haven't made for a few years. This happens fairly often. We make a custom piece of machinery for somebody, and they wear it out, or their company grows, and they come back. Usually about 5 years later, sometimes they're like, "Hey, I need another one of these." Unless you took really, really good notes and a lot of pictures, you're like, basically drag that thing in here, let it sit here for a week so we can figure out how to make another one.
Yeah.
Instead of that, if we've done our work properly and we're getting better at this, we have a complete bill of materials in the system. We can dump that into our purchasing page. Our purchasing guy sits there and picks through all the parts, sends a bunch of them to the plasma table for cutting, and some to the raw material for cutting shafts and stuff like that. It creates batches, work orders. The drawings are in EBMS. So it just kind of all goes out in the shop, and the guys out in the shop, eventually get to it in the schedule, and they make the parts, and they make the whatever's needed, and it just kind of keeps on going. There's not this, we're going to make one of these. This is the way we did it 10, 15 years ago. It's like, hey, we need another one of these. So you pull it into the shop, and you measure, and you run back and forth to the saw, and you measure, and you cut, and you weld. And I mean, it works, but it's like, with most of our equipment here, there's constant crossover. Yeah. Like maybe half the parts on the machine are already made and sitting on a shelf somewhere, or have been made before.
I'd love to dig into some of your processes, your operational processes that you engage on in your business on the shop. One thing that we often hear is that managing inventory, raw materials is a really hard thing before you get to an ERP.
It is. And actually, we resorted to a Kanban system here eventually. This is just my observation, but if you have you're running a store, you have stuff in, stuff out. Yeah. Inventory is, it may be a little bit of a chore there, but once you start to put assemblies in there, it becomes orders of magnitude harder to keep things straight. And we have assemblies inside of assemblies inside of assemblies. Yeah. So it just, you mess up at any point of the way, you kind of upset the apple cart, and it can just be a mess. So we resorted to a Kanban system where the guys on the shop floor are essentially regulating the flow of ordering stuff. Okay. And that was someone else who was like, this isn't working, we need to do better. Yeah. Because we would constantly be running out of parts. Purchasing is very unforgiving, as the guy at the prior Millcreek company's purchasing guy is actually, I'm still in touch with him, but he told me early on that purchasing is the most unforgiving job. If you have 1,000 parts and you miss one, they can't ship the machine because you messed up. Yeah. And that's our constant struggle here, is with all these machines going out the door with, some of our machines have 400 or 500 parts. If you go to all levels, and if you miss one, it takes an incredible amount of time to overcome that. If you have to take a large machine out the door and then bring it back in, you lose. It shouldn't be this way. It seems that we lose about a half a day every time we do that. Oh, wow. That's a lot. I know. It's just crazy. So we started a Kanban system where they hand in the cards once they're out of their first spin, and then they have a replenishment bin. And I was somewhat concerned about how this is going to work, but the funny thing is we found it actually cleaned up our mess in EBMS. It's probably the biggest thing is there's always just one batch or one purchase order in the system.
Okay.
Like in the past, if you got behind, you would have multiple batches in the system, and somebody would get the wrong one or something. The waters would get muddy really fast. But with the current 2-bin system, there's always just one.
Yeah.
So it's actually been fairly easy to keep EBMS inventory accurate, which I was usually afraid that wouldn't be the case. Raw materials are always the absolute worst because you're cutting. Like right now, we just put a plasma in recently, and you get one unit of 5 foot by 10 foot sheet of sheet metal, and you make like 50 different parts out of it.
Yeah.
There's no way you're going to allocate everything correctly. But
yeah.
Actually, there might be, but it's never going to be accurate. Like our plasma gives us a readout of how much material went into each part, which is probably my next custom project, is to get that CSV file into EBMS and translate it properly.
Yeah.
So we've just resorted to, once they're through a certain amount of sheet metal, they hand in the card and we reorder.
Okay.
And we do have a maintenance thing where somebody every so often goes in there and is like, makes sure that it's somewhere close.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where we currently have it at.
So just to help understand Kanban for our listeners, is the idea is you have a couple of bins, 2 bins of parts, and one is you're pulling from, and once that one's depleted, you have a second, your replenishment bin, but there's a card associated with that bin, and when they bring it into the office, you scan it, or a person's responsible for creating that purchasing and manufacturing to replace those parts.
Yeah, which is actually a customization that we did a while back, is where we scan the Kanban card, either creates a batch or creates a purchase order.
Okay.
And that's been really working well for us.
Would you ever go back from that?
No, I would not, because there was just all this time spent double checking, making sure that the computer inventory is accurate. And what I find is that as much as we'd like to have one guy sitting in the office doing all the ordering and so forth, it's just not practical. It's like you have to have somebody boots on the ground looking at your pile of inventory, deciding, okay, it's time to reorder.
Yeah.
And the Kanban cards and bins have made that super simple.
Yeah.
That's what we've found is by far the best. And what it does, the guys on the shop floor have gone from being frustrated because the guy in the office wasn't doing his job to taking ownership and being like, oh, did I hand in the card? Because in general, if the card gets handed in, it gets ordered.
Yeah. So
for them, it's transitioned from being frustrated and not being able to control anything to being like taking the responsibility of, okay, I have to pull the card.
Yeah.
If I want more stuff to come in, I have to make sure I pull the card at the right time.
It's interesting because in the lean methodology, like the Toyota production system methodology, there's a word that represents that the problem needs to be solved closest to the pain.
Yes.
And then you've done that, right?
Yeah.
You've taken I need more stuff. The person closest to the empty bin is responsible for solving that problem.
Yes. In the past, we had people from the shop floor coming in the office frustrated with a list of stuff. This is what's missing. You guys need to get it together. I need this stuff. And now it's more like, hey, is there an order in the system for that? And frequently it's like, hey, these Kanban cards are lost. I just got a bin in and it didn't have a card in. You guys, can you make sure that we track this down? There's a whole lot less contention, and it's more of a shared responsibility, which is nice.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. That sounds like a more exciting context to solve problems in.
Yeah,
is when people are collaborating and taking that shared ownership.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you have some pretty complex assemblies, 400 or 500 parts, and some sub-assemblies and sub-assemblies, multiple layers deep. What are some of the challenges in managing that, and what are some best practices you figured out this?
Yeah, one is we've eliminated as much as we possibly could.
Okay.
It makes some of our engineers frustrated sometimes to go into bill material and there's 50 feet of hydraulic hose in there and 10 fittings and 70 feet of belting, and they're like, "Where's my part numbers?" We're like, "Sorry, we're not doing that. We don't need extra batches for all that stuff." Because if we were to follow all the part numbers that we have and our owner's manuals and so forth, we would be making a batch every time we cut a hydraulic hose. And we're not going to do that.
Right.
We have them all in there. So some of the practice over the years has been to put some of those levels together as much as possible. Yeah. And there again, we kind of go with what's actually happening in the shop.
Yeah.
Like we'll put raw material and these different parts into a weld assembly.
Yeah.
And then at the assembly level, it's like if assembly is working on if weld or assembly, if they're working on one job, everything they're doing goes into that work order, that bill of materials at that level. Like if they move it to the next station, we might create a new batch if there's more things coming together. But we tend to try to follow the flow of the shop as close as we can.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at this time. If there be more automation and so forth, we might consider it, but automation's a little dicey too. I've kind of learned, as Toyota has, you do it manually for a long time until you understand it before you get this fancy script made up.
Yeah.
I just did that in the last year.
Yeah.
I spent thousands of dollars on a script that I'm barely using anymore because our process has changed.
That's
like I gotta stop doing that.
Yeah. That's cheaper than a new system, but it's there's good wisdom in there in the matching the reality to your system, and following that lead. I'd like to take just a little time to talk about just some of the business challenges that you're just today. What are some of the headlines in manufacturing right now? Are some of the challenges that you're facing? What are some of the biggest opportunities you see?
Challenges. Well, one challenge we're facing is that it seems like the rural lifestyle is not as has tapered off a little bit since COVID. COVID was a big shot in the arm for us. Everybody's moving out in the country and buying all the farm equipment they can. Since then, it's kind of gone back.
Okay.
We don't see as much of that going on anymore. What we're seeing new opportunity is actually in more urban environments.
Okay, say more.
We sell spreaders mostly, and we've made top dressers for a long time, which are for turf.
Okay.
And we've seen that really take off here in the last 2 years, actually.
Okay.
Top dressers used to be something that we sold every once in a great while. Now it's like we sell almost more of that than most other things.
And that's a common tool that is more in a more urban context.
Yeah, it's usually like football fields and parks and golf courses and stuff like that.
Interesting.
So we've kind of transitioned from being the ag, the rural focus to hobby farm focus, a little bit more to the municipalities and stuff like that.
Interesting.
Yes, very. It brings its own set of challenges, but it's been good for us.
That's a good dynamic that you're at least able to pivot, stay true to your core constructs and themes, but vary your products with the market.
Yeah, it's a little weird. Like it's a product the one product that we made for 20 years, we used to make one a month, and now we're selling a couple a week. And it's like, I never saw that coming. I just thought that, what I've seen with a lot of products is you last about 20 years and it's time for a redesign or it's time for something different. And this one has just kind of grown in that time.
Interesting.
But, steel prices are a thing. They're, for some of the stuff we're buying, prices are higher than they've ever been.
Okay.
Especially with the tariff activity recently. It's kind of hard to tell what's happening next.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about tariffs. Is it just unpredictable and you're just taking it as it comes? Or are you?
We're just taking it as it comes. We have, I think, what Elon Musk calls a high stupid factor here.
Say more.
We're not. If you're buying a piece of equipment from us for $20,000,
yeah,
the amount of steel that's in it is probably only like 3,000 or something like that.
Okay.
It's not like we're manufacturing some high volume widget where we got to squeeze pennies out of each piece. It's like our machines are a little more niche and gives a little bit more flexibility with the steel prices and so forth. But it's still something we really have to stay on top of and still have to be aware of.
Yeah. What advice do you have for other businesses like yours who are facing these similar challenges? How do you, whether it be navigating tariffs, dealing with having some resilience in the market where things are changing? Is there themes that you could share to other business owners, things that you've done that helped you be able to manage this stuff?
Well, things we've done, whether intentionally or not, I'm not sure, but we have a large number of different products in different markets. The disadvantage is it feels scattered, it's complex, but the advantage is that I don't know that I can remember one time in the last 20 years, actually, that we've been just plumb out of work. Because it's like we have all these opportunities in all these different markets, and there's always something. Somebody's always got money, even when the others don't.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, I'm not sure if that's necessarily good advice, but for us, it's been a strength to be diversified in all these different things.
Yeah, I also think one of the strengths you exhibited is a willingness to take entrepreneurial risk in the acquisition of Millcreek and then the acquisition of Lenco.
Yeah.
That helps you broaden your catalog.
Yeah, it did. It actually did. You know, my goal with buying Lenco was to kind of broaden our horizons with engineering and so forth, because I knew they were extremely innovative. And it's done that. It definitely has broadened us significantly.
Yeah. One thing I always ask our guests is what's a book or two or three that you would recommend others as they navigate growing a business? Every business owner I've encountered learning one from another. So, is there a book or two that you'd recommend?
For manufacturing specifically, The Goal.
Okay.
Everybody that has read it just kind of raves about it because it's a fairly easy read, and it's a little humbling at times to know that manufacturing is all the same. I mean, in essence, business is all the same, but manufacturing is all the same. And reading that book has been really good for us. You know, some of my team's read it, some of the employees have read it.
Yeah,
and it always forces us to rethink how we're doing things out there.
That's good. That's a good reminder. It's we all want to think that we're a snowflake, and maybe we're more like a snow pile. Well, thanks, Henry. This is a blast. I'd love for us to go see your shop and see some stuff in action, if that's all right with you.
Yeah.
All right. That's great.
This is kind of where it starts. We have raw material there and there. Our structural stuff there.
Yeah.
Our sheets are here. And then parts get cut out here. And then they move down here to the press.
Yeah.
They get formed here and then staged for welding.
Okay.
Some of the structural parts come off here and it just kind of flows down through there.
Are you laser welding?
No.
Okay.
No, just MIG welding.
On your puzzle there, the scrap. What do you do with your scrap? Is there some process for you to manage that?
Not necessarily. It just goes out back into the big roll-off container.
How do you deal with, from the accounting standpoint, and your raw material quantities? You're always consuming a full sheet,
Pretty much, yeah.
And you just attribute those costs to the parts that are in part of it?
Well, our plasma software actually tells us, as we nest the products, it tells you how many square feet is going into each width it figures in the waste too.
Okay.
So, in theory, if you punch in all the numbers, you would come out with the exact number for the sheet.
Cool.
In practice, it's probably not the case, but we like to have a number of jobs staged here for the guys down here to weld.
So you're making you made all of this, or is this a purchase component?
That is a purchase component that's going to get bolted in there into this. This was a custom machine here.
Okay.
So that's going to get bolted in there. So,
how much of your work are custom machines?
Let's say about 10%, something like that. And then there's kind of a gray area where probably another 10% where people are asking for things that we can do, have done, but it doesn't happen very often. And that's almost custom for us, because by the time you get to it, you've changed your processes or you've changed the way you do things, and you got to tweak it to make it work for you.
Yeah.
So things get welded in here, and then they kind of come back around. There's nothing here now, but usually, here's the part. This is where the parts sit for quality control, and then they get then they go to powder coating after that.
Yeah. So do you do powder coating here, or do you outsource that?
We outsource that. We have our neighbors half a mile down the road that do it.
Okay.
So that works out pretty well for us. We just haul it down the road and they powder coat it, and then we bring it back and it goes out in the warehouse usually.
Okay.
Let's see, I guess we can head out there.
So from a custom job workflow, how does that work with your Kanban system? Because that would assume some level of custom parts manufacturing or management, right? So.
Yeah, we have a custom process now,
yeah,
where it's required that you make a bill of materials, and a lot of the parts that get thrown into it are production parts.
Okay.
But, we have a process we go through that it took a little doing, but now it's like you make a bill of materials and you flesh it out and you make drawings and it gets done. So out here is more of our skids, pallets. Two-bin system.
Okay.
Usually in the assembly shop out front or in the assembly bay over here, you'll have a skid of parts.
Okay.
And when that skid's all going, you come out here in the warehouse and you pull the skid.
Gotcha.
So in a perfect world, you'd have your two-bin system with your bins right next to each other, but that takes up a lot of room if you have pallets like this. So we just have a warehouse that we put our second bin in.
So when this is opened, they drop this card in the office for replenishment?
There's several spots throughout the shop where they drop the cards in, and then at this point, I'm doing it. I need to hand it off, but I usually go around and gather up all the cards, and that's my time to look at them and be like, okay, we need to change quantity, or hey, we need to re-engineer this before we order more.
Yeah.
It's interesting how it kind of brings it together into a visual reminder of what's going on. So for me as the owner, it's actually a lot of fun to flip through and be like, okay, this is what's going on.
Yeah. I love that on your cards you have your drawing. So there's also a visual representation.
Yep.
And then your locations are defined. Nice.
Yeah. Location, vendor part number, barcode, all that stuff's on there. And yes, we put the like the wireframe isometric drawing.
Yeah.
Is to make sure that the card goes back on the right part.
Okay.
Because if you get cards mixed up, that creates havoc too.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen very often, and that's probably why our powder coaters are really good about putting the cards with the right parts, especially if they have a visual. Yeah.
When you scan your Kanban card, does that automatically create everything, including the right quantity?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's simply a part number, and then goes off all your settings in EBMS to do the right thing, order the right stuff, and create the right batches.
Nice. That's incredible.
Yeah, we really like that.
Is that maybe one of the single most transformative things that you've done in your process?
Yeah, the Kanban, the whole Kanban system was extremely transformative. I look back at my pictures from 2-3 years ago. We had whiteboards that in the assembly stations, and you would have a list of 16 items that they're low or they're running out of or they're concerned about.
Yeah.
We don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
We now have emails going back and forth sometimes like, hey, I think something's wrong with this part, or hey, we're completely out of this. How soon can we have it? But it's not like we have entire lists of things going wrong. It's like we have, the occasional little hiccups, but
yeah,
it's not like it used to be with all these different parts that we're running low on or out of.
Yeah. How do you deal with if you have a part that's damaged? It makes it quality control, and it's bad, or maybe it's opened up from skid and it's been dinged or chipped or something, and you have to discard it or take it out.
Well, usually the shop manager's part of that decision-making process. Doesn't happen very often unless our parts are pretty durable, but if it is, it's like, hey, Daniel, come look at this, and then he'll look at it and be like, okay, either rework it or scrap it. And if you say scrap it, he's usually one who goes to the computer and makes the adjustments needed.
Gotcha. So your inventory stays constant and your reordering continues to flow.
Yeah. Yeah, with exceptions like that, it's usually shop manager's involved anyway to know what's going on, and so he'll just make the adjustments.
So how many machines do you all produce a year, roughly?
Probably, I'm not even sure, somewhere around 600, I think.
Okay.
Depending on our mix of small ones and big ones.
If you had to chance to, let's say you have a fresh plot of land and you're going to rebuild the shop, how would you do it?
I would probably change a few things. One thing we had to work with with this setup was the building.
Yeah.
The building and the land are long and narrow, so we kind of had to work with that.
Yeah.
But if I had to start over completely, I would probably have my assembly in a different building, or at least a different room, so it doesn't get the dust from the plasma and the welding.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the bigger things.
Well, yeah, Henry, this is awesome. This is fun to see and put a visual to the machines. I've heard about you for a long time, and your website and whatnot I've seen, but it's seeing the big machines that you're actually building is it's a bit different in real life. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoyed the conversation and found it helpful, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. We'll keep bringing you practical advice and expert perspectives to help you build a better business, more productive teams, and stronger communities. And if you have questions or topics you'd like us to cover in a future episode, let us know at marketing@cobalsystems.com. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, I'm Deke Bowman, and this is Taking Stock. We'll see you soon.